We're trying to sell soybeans around the world, and a whole bunch of things are getting in the way.
Getting in the way. That's right. It, of course, is always a focus with the American Soybean Association, and we partner with the rest of the U.S. soy, whether with the U.S. Soybean Export Council and the United Soybean Board. But we certainly can't use every bushel that we produce here domestically. So foreign markets and finding new markets and developing those markets, and of course, maintaining our existing markets are hugely important. But it's not just with selling that stuff and finding those markets, you also got to move it, right? So, yeah, a number of issues. We've had some rail developments here in the U.S. over the past couple weeks with Canadian Pacific, with the Canadian rail strike. Hopefully, that's working itself out. It sounds like the government in Canada is getting involved in trying to bring that to a quick resolution. So I don't think right now we haven't seen huge impacts there, but it's always a concern. So want to hopefully get that resolved sooner rather than later. BNSF is also trying to work with some logistics in Mexico, so they have this new what's termed an embargo, but that might that's kind of it's a term of art for the rail industry. But their biggest concern right now is their turnaround times to Mexico are longer than normal, and they have a lot of equipment, whether it's power or the cars lined up in Mexico that they need back here for this coming U.S. harvest. So it's just a mechanism they're trying to use to try and get that straightened out before we start bringing in this crop in the U.S. And again, another thing that it causes some concern, but hopefully long-term smoothens things out and makes things move quicker, more efficient, and gets our product to where we need it.
Those of us in Illinois that depend upon the Mississippi River, we've got an increasing problem all the time. It seems like there's not enough water there to move any grain down.
Yeah, it seemed like this year things were going to be looking pretty good as far as river levels on the Mississippi, but anything that affects the capacity on those barges and limits that, what it does is it generally increases who pays for that? It's the farmer, it's the producer. Increases the cost to the shippers, which of course, leads to worsening basis levels and all those things that farmers have to think about when it comes to a bottom line cash price. So that's a good example of something we can talk about that farmers have invested in over the years, is making sure that Mississippi River waterway is dredging of the Mississippi, farmer dollars that invested in that, partnering with federal dollars. The feds have passed a WRDA bill, another Water Resources Development Act, that puts some more money into that. But it's just, for me as a North Dakota farmer, may not think that the Mississippi transportation routes are that important. None of my beans go there, but the system overall needs to be resilient in order to provide just an efficient, reliable, affordable, and also profitable transportation system for the U.S. farmer.
Well, you just raised an important point, because some people are going to say a North Dakota farmer, his beans go out the Pacific Northwest, and China's probably buying up 1 billion bushels of those every year.
Yeah, I mean, China is our largest market. It's overall, for U.S. soybean farmers, China is larger than the rest of the world combined as far as a soybean market. And so we really, as we move through the next several months, we think about an election here in the U.S., the impacts from any, additional trade tension between the U.S. and China, additional tariffs that lead to retaliation from China. There's a lot of important concerns when it comes to China, and some of the things in the intellectual property world, and, when it comes to highlights that the U.S. government, or things that the U.S. government highlights that they'd like China to see change in some of the ways they operate. But it's important to remember that agricultural trade between the two countries, really important. We were at a meeting last week, U.S. Soy Connects meeting in San Francisco. The China delegation was there, and when you get away from the politics, and you look at the relationships between Chinese companies and the buyers and U.S. producers, it's a really strong, long-lasting relationship. U.S. soybean farmers have been selling there for over 40 years, and that's an important relationship, and they value it, and we do as well. So just, everything we can to remember that the negative ramifications from any type of trade tension, just really impactful to U.S. farmers.
I know we had some problems there with the Trump administration. I'm not sure what any new change would allow, no matter what party it is. But that probably has to be top of mind when it comes to really a Soybean Association support for any trade activity.
Yeah. Well, we remember what happened in 2018 when we went through that first round of tariffs from the U.S. and then retaliatory action from China, who was the first. I mean, what was the first target for them? It was U.S. ag and specifically soybeans. Increasing the price of that, and saw just a really immediate drop in the price of U.S. soybeans in China. And it's not just a one-time thing. Well, what that leads to is China started investing in infrastructure and trade relationships and opportunities with Brazil and other producers, and that has long-term effects. Something that you'll never really recover. So anything additional coming up from either administration, I mean, we really are pushing. The current administration, we need some more trade opportunities there as well. Just whether it's individual free trade agreements with different countries. So, it's the U.S. farmer. The U.S. has generally over the years benefited tremendously from free, fair, and open trade. So just continuing that and remembering how important it is, especially for U.S. producers.
We've seen soybeans go down considerable in value because we got a great crop coming on. There's pluses and minuses to that. You probably are out trying to tell the boys, keep your spirits up. It's going to get better.
Yeah, I mean, we go through these cycles. It's a up and down cycle in farming. It always is. You have a few good years. It seems like, unfortunately, that the length of time of the lower prices lasts longer than that. But it's a balance, and we need to manage through that. And I think most farmers, have tools and risk management tools. It's a good transition to bring up the need to get a new farm bill done as well for U.S. producers, just to provide some of that certainty. The continuation of just 1 year by 1 year extensions doesn't really provide that certainty, not just for farmers, but for lenders and other businesses, equipment manufacturers, others in the value chain. A farm bill, isn't just about my farm. It's about rural America and strong communities and strong businesses within the entire ag value chain. And I think there's time yet this year. I've heard, some of both House and Senate Democrats and Republicans who are on the ag committees have said we have time this year if we focus on it to get a 5-year authorization done. So we are, as an organization at ASA and other commodity groups as well, trying to keep the pressure on to make sure they get that done this year yet.
You have probably spent more time in Washington this year than you ever imagined that you might have when you took this job.
Yeah, it's we have a couple regularly scheduled where we have our full board meetings in D.C. and we bring all of our ASA directors as well as our state affiliates and directors from our state soybean associations and spend that time in D.C. for board meetings as well as Hill visits. There's a group that will then spend some time at the agency level with some of the federal USDA, EPA, U.S. trade rep, having those meetings to talk about all the things we've talked about here and, just again enforce the different things that farmers are facing. It's not just a farm bill issue. So we talk trade, we talk EPA regulations, guidance from Treasury and USDA on getting rules right around biofuel, production credits, fuel production credits. So all of those things, and it does take time. It's face-to-face, and they're important meetings, and typically we see that we make some progress. We don't always get all of everything we want, but it's incremental progress on some things that hopefully bring some profit back to U.S. farmers.
It's a lot of it is a matter of soybean farmers, whether they're a member of ASA and state soybean associations or what. It's important for them to realize that a lot of the profitability is going to be coming from Washington in one way or the other, particularly in changes of regulations. And it's important for them to keep a good communication line with their congressmen and senators.
Sure is. I think there's, we're very busy on our farms, planning for a crop, planting a crop, getting that crop through the season, harvesting that crop, marketing, all of that stuff that goes on at the farm. But there are so many things that happen both at the state level and at the federal level when it comes to policy and regulation that really do affect the bottom line of farmers. So to have engagement from growers through your state grower boards and through your national commodity organizations, being members of those organizations and getting involved, and then the professional staff that we have and the other groups have both in DC and the state level to communicate that message from farmers. An elected official, the most impactful person they hear from is their constituent back home. So whether that's farmers or small business owners, lenders, anybody else involved in ag. Back home, it's just stay engaged, stay involved, and communicate that message.
And they've got an opportunity coming up in the next month if they would talk to one of their or invite one of their representatives to come out and ride in the combine for a round or two through the field.
That's right.
You could have a very insightful conversation.
And that personal relationship works really well. And a phone call or a letter to invite somebody out to the farm, they take that to heart. They like to come and, they're always out looking for votes as well, but they're wanting to build relationships. So if you can, take the opportunity. If our state associations, North Dakota, it's North Dakota Soybean Growers Association, American Soybean Association, all our other, if there's any way we can help, just look us up and we'll be happy to do what we can.
Even if their local state rep, tell them to come out, bring their staff officer out there, take a picture of them getting in the combine. Right. That goes a long way.
And I tell you what, there's when it comes to making decisions in D.C., there's nothing like having that first-hand experience back on the farm. Yeah.